In this video, I'm going to share with you guys the top 3 class setups for the M4A1 assault rifle here in Call of Duty Warzone. So I hope you guys enjoy these class setups and enjoy the video. So what's going on, ladies and gents? My name is Arbuckle. Welcome back to another video. Today we are once again back on Call of Duty Warzone, and I wanted to share with you guys the top 3 best class setups for the M4A1 assault rifle. Now, this is one of the more popular weapons here in Warzone, and to be quite frank, it is definitely my favorite to use. It's a lot of fun and can be very, very good. However, there are some attachments that I highly recommend not using that can actually hurt your ability to do well with this M4 in Warzone. So hopefully throughout this video you guys will find something interesting that you're able to use and will be able to do well with. So I'm going to share with you guys 3 different types of class setups. The first one's going to be a very, very aggressive rushing M4 class setup. The second is going to be a very, very defensive M4 class setup. And the third and final one is going to be an overall, aka the a la carte class setup that you can do well with both of these play styles. Hopefully you guys will be able to pick one of these setups and do really well with it, or you can test all of them out for yourself. So what you're watching right now, what you're going to see throughout the video, is just some gameplay demonstrating what this weapon looks like and how it plays here in a game against multiplayer bots. We're playing veteran bots, and I wanted to just give you guys an idea of what these weapons are like so that when you go into Warzone, you kind of understand how they're going to play. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. But the first class setup that we're going to jump into is going to be the rushing M4A1 class setup. Now, if you guys take a look at the stats that we're going to get with this specific class setup, you guys will see that obviously the main focus here is that mobility, giving us a really nice boost there. We also get a pretty nice boost to accuracy, which is always going to be important regardless of playing Warzone or Modern Warfare. We end up losing a decent amount of range here as well as control, which obviously is not going to be that big of a deal because we are playing extremely aggressive with this class setup. So if you guys take a look at the attachments, we're not going to be using a muzzle. Generally with weapons in Warzone, we'll throw on a monolithic suppressor because I feel that's one of the more important attachments to use in Warzone. But because we want a class setup that's going to be super aggressive and most of our gunfights with this thing are going to be close quarters, we're going to leave off the monolithic suppressor and use that attachment for something a little bit more beneficial. So again, we're not going with a muzzle here. The barrel that we're going to be using is the FSS 14.5 inch tack light. So this is going to give us aim down sight speed as well as a nice boost to mobility here. Again, this is one of the attachments that we end up losing a little bit of range, but you guys will see, again, that's not that important with this specific setup. So again, the FSS 14.5 inch tack light barrel. The laser that we're going to be using is the 5MW laser. Now, I'm a huge fan of the 5MW here because of the hip fire accuracy. We also get sprint to fire speed, which is going to be really important when we're running around corners or running through doorways. You guys will see that not only do we get a nice boost to mobility here, but we're also getting a really nice boost to accuracy. So again, that 5MW laser. We're not going to be running an optic. It's not going to be necessary with this class setup because we are going to be rushing around. We want to save that attachment and use it elsewhere. The stock that we're going to be using is the Forge Tack CQS. Now, I bounced back and forth between the no stock and the Forge Tack here. And the no stock is great. It allows you to move super fast. However, it does hurt us a lot, making us lose even more recoil control. And it's very difficult to do well with this thing unless you are 2 feet away from someone, which is obviously the goal with this class setup. But in Warzone, the close quarters gunfights are generally a little bit more than 2 feet away. So we're going to stick with the Forge Tack CQS, giving us aim down sight speed and a nice boost to mobility. We're not going to be using an underbarrel. The ammunition that we're running is the 60 round mag. Now, I think this is always going to be an important attachment to use with any weapon here in Warzone, regardless of your playstyle, just because of how long it takes to take someone out, especially if you're playing trios or squads where somebody can go down, therefore having to actually put more bullets into them. So the 60 round mag is always a great way to go with pretty much any weapon here in Warzone. And last but not least, the rear grip that we're using is stippled grip tape, giving us aim down sight speed as well as sprint to fire speed and one final boost to mobility. So I'll give you guys one last look at all the stats and attachments that come with this specific class setup so that if you want to rush around in Warzone, you'll be able to do pretty well with this thing. The next class setup that we're going to be jumping into is the super defensive class setup. So if you're a player that likes to sit back, not have any close quarters gunfight situations, you just want to camp it out, this is going to be a class setup for you. So if you guys take a look at the stats that we're going to get with this specific class setup, you guys will see that we're going to get a massive boost to accuracy and range, which are obviously going to be very important. We're also going to get a really nice boost to control here, and we're going to drop a ton of mobility, which you guys know won't be important with this class setup. And to be honest, really isn't that important in Warzone overall because the map is so big and most of your playing is going to be done from long distance. So if you guys take a look at the attachments that we're going to be running with this specific class setup, the muzzle that we're going to be using is the monolithic suppressor. Now, like I said in the last class setup, this is a very, very important attachment to have for any setup that's not going to be a bum rushing class setup. So the monolithic suppressor muzzle. The barrel that we're going to be using is the stock M16 Grenadier. Now, this is the best barrel that you can use on the M4 when it comes to range and accuracy. You guys will see that we get an absolutely insane boost to not only that range and accuracy, but also to control, giving us damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control as our pros. So again, the stock M16 Grenadier barrel. We're not going to be using a laser. The optic that we're using is the GI Mini Reflex. Now, when it comes to a very defensive class setup, I think having an optic is going to be very, very important. I know a lot of times in Warzone, most players aren't using a scope, but if you're going to play super camp-like, you're going to want to have a scope on this thing, and I recommend using the GI Mini Reflex. It's more personal preference when it comes to the optic, but I always think that having the Mini Reflex is a little bit easier to do well from long distance with. So the GI is what we're rocking with here. We're not going to be using a stock. The underbarrel that we're using is the Commando foregrip. Now, this is always a great underbarrel to go with and is generally the one that I pick with almost all of my weapons here in Warzone. You'll see that with this we get recoil stabilization as well as aiming stability. However, the aiming stability is pretty much useless with this weapon because the main focus of that is to fix idle sway, which we don't have on ARs. So the recoil stabilization is the most important part of this attachment, giving us a nice boost to accuracy, range, and control. So again, the Commando foregrip underbarrel. And last but not least, the ammunition that we're running is obviously that 60 round mag. Like I said, always super important to have that on. So that is the ammunition that we're going to be running. So I'll give you guys one last look at all the stats and attachments that are going to come with this specific M4A1 super defensive class setup. Now, the final class setup that we're going to jump into is the overall M4A1 class setup. It's great for not only long distance, but those close quarters engagements as well. And this tends to be the more popular M4 class setup used in Warzone. So if that's what you're looking for, this will be the class setup for you. So if you guys take a look at the stats that we're going to get with this specific class setup, you guys will see that we still get that same massive boost to accuracy and range, which is obviously going to be really important and help us to do great from distance. The control boost here, we still end up getting a boost, but it's not quite as massive as the defensive class setup, because you will see that what we're doing is actually saving ourselves a little bit of that mobility. We're essentially cutting that mobility in half and again, just giving us half and half. We're great from distance, we're great from close quarters gunfight situations, and it's just overall a really good M4 setup up here. So if you guys take a look at the attachments, the muzzle that we're going to be using is the monolithic suppressor. With this, again, we're getting sound suppression as well as damage range, giving us a really nice boost to accuracy and range. Again, a very important attachment to use here in Warzone, so that monolithic suppressor muzzle. The barrel that we're going to be using is the Corvus Custom Marksman. So we're changing this from the stock M16 Grenadier. You guys will see that it focuses on the same stats here with a really nice boost to accuracy, range, and control, but you'll see that we end up saving a lot more mobility, and overall that's what we're going for here. So we're going to be rocking with the Corvus Custom Marksman. We're not going to be using a laser. We're also not going to be using an optic. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Most people now in Warzone aren't using an optic because it's not necessary, and because we want to be able to do well from pretty much all ranges with this, we're going to refrain from using an optic on this. So we're going to leave the optic off. We're also not going to be using a stock. The underbarrel that we're using is the Commando foregrip. So again, like I said, the aiming stability pro completely useless, but the recoil stabilization is so important that we're going to keep this Commando foregrip on. Another reason this Commando foregrip is very important, rather than a lot of the other underbarrels, that question comes up a lot. Why not just run something like the Merc or the Tactical or the Operator foregrip? With the other underbarrels that you can run, almost all of them, you end up losing more ADS speed. And what's nice about that Commando is that you don't lose that ADS speed. So sticking with the Commando is going to be a great thing to have. The ammunition that we're running is obviously, again, going to be that 60 round mag. Should always have that on. And last but not least, the rear grip that we're using is rubberized grip tape. Now, this is a really great attachment and a very underappreciated one. With this, you're getting recoil control and a massive boost to accuracy. If you guys want to test this out, test out the class setup without rubberized grip tape and then throw it on, and you'll notice a massive difference when you're going into those gunfights from long range, how much more steady your weapon is and how much easier it is to hit more shots from that distance. But the rubberized grip tape, always a really good way to go here with ARs in Warzone. But I'll give you guys one last look at all the stats and attachments that come with this specific M4 overall class setup. If you guys have any questions about any of the class setups that I share with you in this video, please make sure to leave a comment down below and I'll be sure and try to help some of you guys out. Also, if you have a class setup that you like to use that you think would be beneficial to people watching this video, leave that down below as well, and I might try that out because I always enjoy trying out new attachments anyways. But again, let me know down in the comments. But I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see all you guys in the next video.